In a dimly lit medieval scriptorium, a monk hunches over a wooden desk, his quill scratching across parchment. Shadows dance across the walls, whispering secrets of a dark obsession taking shape. This is the birthplace of the Malleus Maleficarum, a text destined to unleash terror across Europe. As ink flows, the first lines of the Malleus emerge, articulating a worldview steeped in fear. Each stroke of the quill births a theological weapon, one that will justify persecution and violence against those deemed witches. The air thickens with dread as the monk's fervor grows. Within the margins of the manuscript, grotesque illustrations of demons twist and writhe, their sinister forms a reflection of the author's deepest fears. These images are not mere decoration, they foreshadow the horrors that will soon be unleashed upon the innocent. The Malleus Maleficarum is not just a book, it is a harbinger of chaos. Courtrooms will soon echo with accusations, pyres will burn bright with the flames of the condemned, and torture chambers will become sites of unimaginable suffering, all legitimized by the text now taking form. In the minds of its authors, the Malleus is a righteous crusade against evil. They believe they are safeguarding society from the devil's influence, but in reality, they are crafting a blueprint for devastation. The ink they wield will become a tool of oppression. As the final words are penned, the scriptorium is filled with an unsettling silence. The monk pauses, his eyes reflecting a mix of pride and foreboding. He understands the power of what he has created, yet cannot foresee the bloodshed it will incite. The Malleus will soon travel beyond these stone walls, infiltrating the minds of judges, clergy, and common folk alike. Its teachings will twist perceptions, turning neighbor against neighbor, and instilling a pervasive fear that will grip Europe for centuries. As the candle flickers one last time, the monk's heart races. He knows that the words he has crafted will not simply fade into obscurity. They will resonate through the ages, echoing in the hearts of those who wield them. How did one book become the foundation for mass fear? The authors believed they were fighting a righteous battle against evil, yet they unknowingly laid the groundwork for a legacy of terror. Their intentions would soon spiral out of control. In the shadows of history, ideas can be deadlier than weapons. The Malleus Maleficarum is about to emerge from its scriptorium, ready to unleash a wave of persecution that will alter the course of countless lives. What horrors await? In the late 15th century, Heinrich Kramer, a man in his 40s with thinning dark hair and piercing blue eyes, sat in a dimly lit monastery. His obsession with witchcraft consumed him, as he scribbled fervently on parchment, convinced of a vast conspiracy against the church. Kramer's failures haunted him. Once a promising inquisitor, he faced ridicule after judges dismissed his accusations as the ramblings of a fanatic. Each rejection deepened his resolve, turning his fervor into a relentless crusade against perceived evil. In his solitude, Kramer began to see witchcraft everywhere. He filled his notes with wild accusations, convinced that women were the primary agents of the devil. His writings became a mirror reflecting his darkest fears and obsessions. Kramer's writings took on a feverish intensity. He believed he was chosen to expose the hidden witches lurking in plain sight. With each stroke of his quill, he crafted a narrative that would justify his crusade and restore his tarnished reputation. As Kramer's obsession deepened, he became increasingly isolated. Fellow clerics viewed him with suspicion, and the church hesitated to endorse his radical views. Yet he remained undeterred, convinced that the world was blind to the evil he sought to eradicate. Kramer's ambition transformed into a singular vision, a book that would serve as both a weapon and a shield. He envisioned a manual that would not only validate his beliefs, but also impose them upon a reluctant Europe. In his mind, this book would be his revenge against those who doubted him. It would expose the supposed truth of witchcraft and empower judges to act upon his radical ideas. The stakes were high, and he was prepared to fight. Kramer's writings became increasingly elaborate, blending theology with paranoia. He filled pages with tales of demonic pacts and sinister rituals, convinced that these narratives would resonate with a fearful populace eager for answers. As he penned these ideas, Kramer felt the weight of destiny upon him. He envisioned a Europe transformed, where his words would ignite a fervor that would sweep through towns and villages, uniting them against a common enemy. In his mind, Kramer was not merely an author, he was a prophet of a new order. With each word he believed he was forging a path to redemption, unaware that he was about to unleash a wave of terror that would engulf Europe. In the dim light of a medieval scriptorium, Heinrich Kramer, a man in his late 40s with a gaunt face and deep-set eyes, meticulously transcribes his thoughts onto parchment. His ink flows like his fervor, driven by a vision of a world riddled with witches. Kramer's obsession is palpable as he collaborates with Jacob Sprenger, a robust scholar in his 50s, whose presence lends a veneer of respectability. Together, they craft a narrative that intertwines fear with theological doctrine, presenting witchcraft as a pervasive evil. The Malleus Maleficarum emerges as a chilling text, asserting that women are inherently vulnerable to the devil's influence. Its pages weave together superstition and law, creating a dangerous justification for persecution and violence. As the book takes shape, Kramer's fervor grows. He imagines a world where every shadow holds a witch, and every misfortune is a sign of the devil's work. His paranoia morphs into a doctrine, blurring the lines between reality and fear. The author's fears seep into the text, where torture is portrayed not as a crime, but as a necessary tool for truth. The Malleus instructs judges to abandon compassion, framing brutality as a divine duty to cleanse society. With the manuscript complete, Kramer and Sprenger prepare for publication. The weight of their names on the title page transforms the book into an authoritative weapon, legitimizing the horrors that will soon unfold across Europe. As copies roll off the printing press, they resemble weapons being forged for a coming battle. Each page carries the potential to incite fear, turning neighbors into accusers and friends into foes. The book's seductive logic spreads like wildfire, igniting moral panic. In towns and villages, whispers of witchcraft become a justification for violence, as the Malleus transforms suspicion into state-sanctioned terror. Judges, emboldened by the Malleus, begin to interpret every misfortune through the lens of witchcraft. The text becomes a guide, instructing them to see the devil's hand in the most mundane of events. As the Malleus gains traction, the authors remain unaware of the chaos they are about to unleash. The ink that flows from their quills will soon stain the pages of history with blood, setting the stage for an era of unprecedented terror. The Malleus Maleficarum painted a vivid picture of witchcraft, depicting witches as malevolent beings capable of flight, curses, and seduction. Its chilling descriptions ignited imaginations, transforming ordinary women into figures of dread and suspicion across Europe. The book's legal instructions were particularly sinister, outlining methods for identifying witches and interrogating them. It encouraged judges to abandon morality, viewing consent as irrelevant in the pursuit of perceived justice. With an authoritative tone, the Malleus instructed judges to employ psychological tactics to break suspects. The systematic dismantling of a person's will became a grim ritual, justified by the text's unwavering confidence. As fear permeated society, everyday misfortunes were reinterpreted through the lens of witchcraft. A broken cartwheel or a failed harvest could spark accusations, turning neighbors against one another in a frenzy of paranoia. The Malleus transformed superstition into state policy, embedding itself into the legal framework. Its chilling directives became a blueprint for trials, where the mere accusation of witchcraft led to swift and brutal consequences. The book's illustrations fueled public imagination, depicting horned demons and terrified villagers. These images became the visual language of fear, reinforcing the belief that witches lurked in every shadow. As the Malleus spread, it shaped the narrative of witchcraft in Europe. The text's authority led to a culture where suspicion thrived, and the innocent were ensnared in a web of fear and accusation. The psychological manipulation outlined in the Malleus became commonplace. Judges, emboldened by its teachings, began to see themselves as defenders of society, justifying their actions through the book's twisted logic. As accusations spiraled, the societal fabric began to unravel. Neighbors turned against each other, and friendships dissolved under the weight of suspicion, all fueled by the relentless teachings of the Malleus. In this climate of fear, the Malleus became more than a book. It was a catalyst for a cultural shift. The world was learning to see witches everywhere, and the consequences would be dire. In the wake of Gutenberg's invention, the Malleus Maleficarum emerged as a harbinger of dread. Its pages, filled with accusations and instructions, began to circulate through towns and cities, igniting paranoia wherever they landed. Clerics, armed with the Malleus, delivered sermons that twisted the sacred into the sinister. Darkened churches echoed with the chilling words of the text, as congregations listened, their faces reflecting a growing unease. Judges, once guided by reason, now turned to the Malleus for validation. Its doctrines became the foundation of legal proceedings, as fear seeped into the very fabric of justice, warping it beyond recognition. As the book spread, communities became insular, mistrustful of their neighbors. Accusations of witchcraft flourished, fueled by the text's chilling assertions, turning friends into foes and families against each other. The Malleus not only spread fear, but also provided a blueprint for persecution. Its chilling instructions on interrogation and execution transformed ordinary citizens into agents of terror, enforcing its doctrines. In towns across Europe, the Malleus became synonymous with authority. Its influence reached judges and inquisitors, who cited its passages as they presided over trials marked by cruelty and despair. The more the Malleus circulated, the more the boundaries between reality and superstition blurred. Everyday misfortunes were reinterpreted through the lens of witchcraft, fueling a cycle of hysteria and violence. With each new edition, the Malleus acted as a catalyst, igniting a wildfire of paranoia that swept through Europe. Its pages became instruments of oppression, transforming lives into nightmares of suspicion. As fear took root, the Malleus became a tool for the powerful, allowing them to manipulate the masses. Its doctrines fostered an environment where dissent was silenced and conformity enforced through terror. The Malleus Maleficarum had become more than a book. It was a force that reshaped society. As fear institutionalized itself, the stage was set for a dark chapter in human history that was only just beginning. As the Malleus Maleficarum gained traction, witch trials erupted across Europe, with Germany becoming the epicenter. Villagers, gripped by paranoia, turned on their neighbors, accusing them of witchcraft with fervor fueled by fear. In courtrooms, judges, emboldened by the Malleus, presided over trials that often lacked evidence. The air was thick with tension, as terrified defendants faced their accusers, their fates sealed by mere suspicion. The Malleus provided a chilling framework for interrogation. Torture became a grim necessity, with judges citing its procedures as divine law, stripping away any semblance of humanity from the process. As accusations escalated, entire communities were torn apart. Neighbors turned against each other, driven by jealousy and fear, leading to mass executions that left towns hollow and haunted. The brutality of the trials reached horrifying heights. In some instances, dozens were executed in a single day, their lives extinguished by a collective hysteria that knew no bounds. Children were not spared from the Malleus's grip. Accusations against the young were rampant, as fear twisted innocence into guilt, leading to unimaginable tragedies that scarred families. The Malleus's influence permeated society, transforming superstition into a systematic approach to justice. Fear became a tool wielded by those in power, justifying horrific acts in the name of order. As the trials continued, the line between guilt and innocence blurred. Many confessed under duress, their words twisted into admissions of guilt, further fueling the cycle of terror and retribution. The societal fabric unraveled, with entire towns left in mourning. The echoes of screams and crackling flames haunted the survivors, marking a period where fear reigned supreme over reason. With each trial, the Malleus solidified its grip on society, transforming individual fears into a collective nightmare. The chilling legacy of this text was only beginning to unfold as terror became the new norm. As the late 17th century dawned, a wave of skepticism began to wash over Europe. Scholars once captivated by the Malleus Maleficarum started to dissect its claims, revealing the flawed logic that had fueled so much suffering. Despite the emerging doubts, the scars left by the Malleus were deep and irrevocable. Thousands had perished, their lives extinguished by the very fears the book had ignited, leaving communities shattered and families broken. The Church, realizing the extent of the devastation, began to distance itself from the Malleus. Yet the book had already woven itself into the fabric of society, its ideas lingering in folklore and popular belief. The Malleus Maleficarum became a haunting legacy, its influence rippling through court records and sermons. Its assertions about witchcraft and women seeped into the very language of justice, shaping perceptions for generations. In literature and art, the specter of the Malleus loomed large. Writers and artists depicted witches as embodiments of evil, reflecting the fears and prejudices that had been codified in the book's pages. As the Enlightenment began to take root, the Malleus was scrutinized more rigorously. Intellectuals argued against its premises, advocating for reason and compassion over fear and superstition, yet the shadows of its impact lingered. Modern historians now regard the Malleus as a pivotal text in the history of witch hunting. It serves as a grim reminder of how scholarship can be manipulated to justify oppression and violence against the vulnerable. The book's legacy is not merely one of horror, it is a cautionary tale about the power of words. The Malleus Maleficarum transformed fear into a weapon, shaping societal norms and legal practices for centuries. As we reflect on the Malleus, we are reminded of the countless lives it affected. Each name lost to the flames of hysteria represents a story silenced, a voice extinguished by fear's cruel grip. In the end, the Malleus Maleficarum stands as a testament to the enduring power of fear and the words that can bind or liberate. Sometimes the most dangerous weapons are not forged in metal, but crafted in ink.